Welcome everybody to the Movie Battleground. We got another great one here for you today. I am your host, Chad Webb, and we have today facing off against each other Ryan Permison and Alec Miller. This is going to be a really, really fun one. I'm not going to really banter as much as Aaron does. I don't really care as much about doing that. So just going to start introducing people. And first, I'm going to bring in Mr. Ryan Permison with a record of 1-2. Introducing first. How's it going, Ryan?
Well, that sounds like a winning record, doesn't it? No, it doesn't. But no, how am I doing? I'm doing well. It's good to be here. This should be fun. We got some interesting questions, some that are way out of left field, and some of them, in the words of the late, not so great iteration of Quicksilver, you didn't see that coming? No, I didn't. So, but this will be fun. Alec and I have known each other for years. We're good friends, and this is gonna be a good time. Some of these questions I may be a bit passionate about more so than others, but you'll see. It should be fun.
Nice, nice. All right. Well, we have a little bit of a thing here. Ryan makes a swift return to the battleground following a tough defeat to Amaru Moses, and he'll be hoping to turn that around with a win today. How was that facing Amaru?
Yeah, going up against an MTS legend like Amaru from the Inner Geekdom division, gee whiz, he is no slouch, and that was not an easy match. That match came down to the wire. If you have not seen that match after you watch this, go back and watch the match between myself and Amaru. And I'm not just saying it because I'm one of the competitors. I'm telling you, it was a nail biter, like literally. So it was fun going against Amaru, but he got his revenge because he didn't like me very well going into the match. He's like, I have a score to settle. So he settled the score. So now I'm off on my own. Really no rivalries. So really no problems, no issues. I mean, unless Alec beats me, then I'll really have another issue. But I don't think that's going to happen. I can pull a I can pull a victory out of my hat. We shall see. Anything is possible in this division.
That sounds great. I love the confidence. So let's kick you out and bring in your opponent. Introducing second, we have with a 1-1 record, Alec Miller. Nope, wrong guy. With a 1-1 record. 3, 2, 1. Introducing second with a 1-1 record, Alec Miller. There
What's
he
up?
is. What's up, Alec? How's it going, man?
It's going good. I'm excited. These are definitely some interesting questions. I'm very passionate about one in particular, so hopefully,
Okay.
that one will come through. But yeah, I'm excited.
Oh yeah, it'll be great to see you debate all these questions, and I'm looking forward to hearing about the one that you're excited about. To hear about the passion. Alec makes a long-awaited return after taking some time off following a KO defeat to Jeremy Adams in the 1-0 bracket last year. How have you been preparing to face off against Ryan? Are you nervous about this one?
I'm not too nervous just because I do enjoy the question. I like the questions. It's easier when they're like questions that things that you enjoy. My last match, I was kind of out of my, kind of just out of it. I was completely unprepared for my match with Jeremy. So this one I came in not being too nervous, just kind of relaxing while the dog attacks me. Yeah, just trying to stay calm going in. Sometimes I get a little nervous and like start talking like crazy.
Oh yeah, I mean, I think we've all been there with the nerves because you want to say the right stuff, you want to get your points across, make sure they're listening to you, and it is what it is. But as long as you've prepped, you got that confidence, it's coming across. So best of luck to you, and best of luck to Ryan. I'm going to kick you out, and then yeah, so we will go ahead and get into this. Don't. All right. All right. So, Movie Battleground is a best of 5, or first to 3 points will declare a winner. Each round of debate is worth 1 point. If one competitor earns the first 3 points in a row, that is a victory via KO. If it is a 2-2 draw at the end of 4 rounds, we go to the tiebreaker blind round. We'll get to that if we ever get there. The competitors were given the questions ahead of the match and have had time to prep their answers. The first stage of a question is the 60-second opening. The second stage of a question is the 2-minute expansion rebuttal period. The third stage of a question is the 4-minute open debate discussion where they can really go at it. The fourth stage of a question is the 60-second final closing to get any little last points you want to try to throw in there to win over some judges. Speaking of the judges, you have 3 judges in the back. We have Malcolm Lay, Brian Nussbaum, and Sean Sandberg. They will be brought on screen, during which they'll give their judgment of who won the round. Alec is the favorite this time, and he chose to go first on questions number 2 and number 4. So Ryan will go first on questions number 1 and 3, and then I'm going to bring Ryan and Alec back. Oh, actually.
Oh, come on, man.
I know.
You're just on a roll here. The fur baby must have gotten to his camera vision and knocked over his camera. Alec, fix your camera.
I saw that he was frozen, so.
Oh, no.
So Aaron
is Alec pulling a DS?
6 minutes.
Not be surprised. Alec, you may want to jump out and jump back in. Because that works, works sometimes. Boy, this is going so well. Hey, there he is.
Hey, what's up? My internet just completely spazzed on.
I wonder why. Maybe the fur baby got into the kibble bits. I don't know.
Give me 1 second.
Sorry about
Chad.
that.
Do another 3, 2, 1 for those editors at home that are going to be editing the heck out of this match.
Right. Yep. All right. All right. Now that we have our competitors in here, we can get this thing started. So we're going to go to question number 1. Question number 1. And so this one is a big geek franchise, and I think that it is maybe one of the competitor's strengths here, going off of what I know about him. So we're going to throw this one out there. It is, what is the worst X-Men film? I think there's a few bad ones in there to choose from with this. So it looks like we're going to have Ryan go first on this question. So let me go ahead and get that timer in here. Absolutely. So Ryan, the clock will start when you begin speaking.
So when it comes to what is the worst X-Men film, there are definitely a couple of options out there. Let's be honest, there are, because X-Men never batted. Unfortunately, it didn't bat 1,000 as much as we may have wanted it to. Don't get me wrong. But for the worst X-Men film for this one, I'm going to go with the third installment of the original trilogy, and that is specifically X-Men The Last Stand, or some people call it X-Men 3 The Last Stand. I'm going with that one because they took an iconic storyline, took a boatload of characters, and they did some things that not a lot of fans were happy about. They made some decisions that are very questionable, and they took an iconic storyline and they butchered it. I'll discuss more after this, but for the moment, I will yield the rest of my time. That means stop the clock. We can move on to the next competitor, for those of you who have no idea what I just said. Yeah, we're trying to help you here, producers. Boy, this is awkward. Awkward silence.
Did you guys were not able to hear me at all?
No.
Oh, whoops.
We didn't hear a gosh darn thing.
That's right, because I took my entire self out of the call. All right, so yeah. Shoot.
All right, Spielberg, this one. Marker.
All right. Sorry about that, guys. Yeah. So
now we can hear you.
Aaron, yeah, I'm gonna edit this. 3, 2, 1. All right. So now that we're back up at the top, Alec, when you begin speaking, so will your time.
Yeah, this one, this question definitely had a few choices that you could have went, and a few choices that actually almost went, but ultimately I went with. That was loud. Sorry about that. So yeah.
Producers, we're gonna have to do a retake on this, just so you know.
I'm so sorry about that. Jesus Christ.
That's okay. I'm just gonna rewind the clock. I don't even think you got that far in. If you just want to restart.
Yeah, that's fine. I'll just restart.
Okay. Shoot. All right. This is going amazing, guys. All right.
So yes, this one definitely had a lot of choices that you could have possibly had. I decided to actually go with the one that took your movie, Ryan, and shit on that one. I probably shouldn't curse, but took a massive steaming, you know what, on top of what you did, and that's X-Men: Dark Phoenix. That movie is at times incomprehensible. There are times I'm sitting in the movie, I don't know what in the world is going on. It took what I didn't think anything could get worse than Apocalypse, and they were able to do that with this movie, coming off of what was X-Men Days of Future Past, how great that made this franchise again. And yeah, man, this movie, it took some chances, and I don't think it landed on any of them. So we'll get more into that when we get to it, but I'll yield the rest of my time.
All right. I'm just going to let it go. All right. So now that we're at the top, Ryan's 2 minutes will begin when he begins speaking.
All right, let's rewind the clock a little bit here, because this movie, X-Men, known as X-Men 3, also known as X-Men 3: The Last Stand, this was coming off of two incredible films, two first films within the franchise itself, and this was going to potentially end the entire series. But there were so many problems with this film, with a change in director from Bryan Singer, giving the reins over to Brett Ratner because Bryan Singer went off to make another film. And because Brett Ratner he was rushed to get this film into theaters. Everything was a rush job, and you can really tell that when you're watching the film. And they added in new characters without explaining who they are, where they came from. They wrote out Nightcrawler, which was one of the best parts of X2 X-Men United, with no explanation as to what happened to him. You kill off Charles Xavier, you kill off Cyclops, you kill off Jean Grey, all in this movie. And then you take the Dark Phoenix saga and you completely ruin it, despite Famke Janssen's performance. She's a fine actress. She could do a lot of great things, even with a weak script. But even she couldn't save this abomination of a film. There's another Marvel reference for you kids out there, because they kill off all these characters. There was no setup for it. They just wrote them off, killed them off, and the rest of the film is all over the place. They're not sure what they're doing. They have this cure that they're not too happy about. Some mutants want to take it, some mutants don't, which is an interesting exploration of a theme there. But the biggest part of this was the Phoenix saga that everyone was anticipating, because they teased it at the very end of X2. And with that and X-Men 3, The Last Stand, they just completely botched it, ruined it for so many reasons. And this film, at the end of the day, even though it made X amount of dollars, at the end of the day, it was very divisive among critics, very divisive amongst fans. And then years later, they went back and said, you know what? It's a horrible, horrible film. Critics didn't really like it all that much. The fans absolutely hated it, especially if you grew up on the 90s series, X-Men animated series, and that's why X3: The Last Stand.
All right, that's time. And so we're going to move on to Alec for his 2 minutes when he begins speaking.
So this movie, coming from what we got with, there were hit and misses in this part of the franchise, with what I think is the two best X-Men movies, which is First Class and Days of Future Past. What we got after that was just really disappointing. And then when you get to this movie, X-Men: Dark Phoenix, it just completely flies off the rails. Apocalypse, as bad as it was and as not great as Apocalypse looked, there are definitely moments in that film that make it worth seeing, just for those certain moments. With X-Men: Dark Phoenix, there's really not much in this to go and watch. I felt really bad when I first watched it, because I watched it with my girlfriend and her mom, and they were having a lot of fun, and I couldn't enjoy it. So I'm trying going through it. It was directed by Jesus, why am I blanking on his name? Simon Kinberg, which at the time when it was announced, it was I kind of had an idea, had a feeling that it wasn't going to be a great showing. He shouldn't have been directing this film. This film should have been taken on by someone who had a lot more experience, and it shows in this. It can't be saved by James McAvoy and Michael Fassbender, who of course put in great performances, but you can see how bored Jennifer Lawrence is in the film. You can see that Sophie Turner, as good as an actress as she is, she's trying, but there's just no chemistry between her and why am I blanking on his name again? Ty Sheridan. Sorry about that. So there's no chemistry between them, and this is your Scott and Jean, and there's absolutely zero chemistry in this movie. So I'm gonna go ahead and yield the rest of my time.
All right, we're yielding some time here, so we're about to go. Let these guys go head to head, and time will begin in their 4 minutes when one person begins speaking.
Well, let's go with this one, shall we? So by the time your film, respectively known as X-Men Dark Phoenix, came around, no one gave a crap. No one cared at all about what was going on into that film. There was a lot of anticipation going in to see X3, the X-Men 3, The Last Stand. Whereas in X-Men Dark Phoenix, there was no anticipation at all because X-Men Apocalypse, not very good, ruined the rebooted franchise pretty much. Like, it put the nail in the bloody coffin. So when they got to Dark Phoenix, they already knew the film was going to be a piece of trash because they already tried it with X3, The Last Stand. Hence the reason why, in this case, X3, The Last Stand is the worst X-Men film because they were coming off two incredible films, whereas Dark Phoenix, the bar was buried in the sand. It was on the ground. No one cared. There was no one to... Heck, the film wasn't even called X-Men Dark Phoenix when it came out. The poster in the theaters, all over the marketing campaign, just called it Dark Phoenix. And they expected most moviegoers to know what film you were about to see, even if it had a woman spraying the screen with fire coming out of her hands. That's how little confidence that the studio had for Dark Phoenix going into that film. Whereas X-Men 3, The Last Stand, they were betting on this film because Brett Ratner, he's directed action films before. He directed action comedies where X-Men doesn't really have a lot of comedy. It does have moments of levity, but he had a huge task ahead of him with X3, The Last Stand, and he ruined it so horribly because after X3, The Last Stand, what else did we get? We get X-Men Origins Wolverine. Two garbage, horrible films that a lot of fans and critics will just go after as many times as they can get. Whereas with your film, Dark Phoenix, no one remembers that film being bad because no one ever saw it. It made barely any money at the box office, where X3 was a recognizable film going in to see it because they were already coming up the first two. So I'm sorry to say this, Alec, but Dark Phoenix, no one remembers that film being bad because no one saw it. But people remember how bad X-Men 3, The Last Stand was, hence why it is the worst film in this franchise.
No one remembers Dark Phoenix because it was an incoherent mess of a film. So when people came out of it, they didn't know what they saw. They completely forgot that they saw it because it made absolutely zero sense. You have people connected to it like James McAvoy, Michael Fassbender, who are still great in the film, obviously. But you have Ty Sheridan and Sophie Turner who have zero chemistry. Like I said, Jennifer Lawrence, you can tell she's just collecting a paycheck. She's backup quarterbacking it. We're just kind of showing up and hoping she doesn't have to carry this film. Luckily, she didn't because no one could carry this film, even if they tried. You have Jessica Chastain as this weird alien that I still like. I can't wrap my head around what she did in the film. It was very odd. It was just it made no sense for in the movie. In X-Men 3: The Last Stand, I understand the disappointment, but when you look back on the films, and you watch Dark Phoenix and Last Stand together, it makes you appreciate Last Stand so much more because of what that film is, because of what Dark Phoenix is, because it was nowhere near as bad as it was. Yes, it might have fell flat. It might have fell short of what people were expecting and what people wanted from that film. But when you compare it to Dark Phoenix, it does the Dark Phoenix better. Famke Janssen, even though I don't think she's that great. I don't think she's as good as Sophie Turner. She definitely is the more memorable Jean Grey, the more memorable Dark Phoenix. You have Hugh Jackman doing his thing. You have all your favorites that you enjoyed from the past movies. This one, it was worse because you couldn't even get excited about the people that were in it because they hadn't put in a good performance as that core group yet.
But did Dark Phoenix do anything to remedy that? No, they didn't, because at the end of X-Men Days of Future Past, what did they do? They completely erased debacle, the horrendous piece of garbage, the dumpster fire that was X3 The Last Stand. So that's another reason why X3 The Last Stand is the worst X-Men film.
All right. Good open debate there. So now we're going to go back up to the top for Ryan's final 60 seconds when he begins speaking.
The question on the table here is, what is the worst X-Men film ever made, right? The worst one has to be X-Men The Last Stand because of the change in directors, the horrendous execution of an iconic storyline from the comics known as the Phoenix storyline or the Dark Phoenix storyline, depending on how you look at it. And not even great performances from the actors and actresses involved in this film could rescue the piece of crap that this film is. This film is so bad that when a film known as X-Men Days of Future Past came out, they completely erased and revamped everything that happened prior to that film being made, X-Men Days of Future Past, because they erased everything that happened in X-Men 3: The Last Stand. That's how bad it got. That's how horrendous that critics and fans hate this movie, to the point where it got completely removed from X-Men canon, whatever is left of it. Your film, no one cared. No one cares about that film at all, whereas X-Men 3: The Last Stand left a more dark impression than Dark Phoenix.
All right, and now we're going to go down to Alec for his final 60 seconds when he begins speaking.
Dark Phoenix did what The Last Stand did and doubled it, made it worse. People will remember The Last Stand because of the fact that this movie exists. This movie takes takes one of the greatest storylines, the Dark Phoenix saga, and completely craps on it, adds aliens. Even though The Last Stand did that as well, Dark Phoenix was able to one-up that, add in weird alien people with Jessica Chastain. You have an actress who doesn't want to be there in Jennifer Lawrence, who barely shows up. It's supposed to be all about mute and proud, and still never wears the makeup. You have Fassbender and McAvoy being wasted in this film, whereas in the other one you get same thing, but you also have Hugh Jackman. You have all your favorites that we grew to love in the first two films. This one, we didn't get that. We didn't get to even love them because they were always in bad films.
We're Chad.
Yeah, you're right. All right, so we now have the judges in here. So now we're going to go on to we'll start at the top with Brian to judge first, and in 30 seconds or less, tell us who won the point and why.
For me, this round, I'm going to go to Alex. He talked more about why Dark Phoenix is bad. With Ryan, didn't talk that much, and Alec brought a good point with you get most of the original cast back for this, and this round, Alex gets my point.
All right, so we're gonna move on to Malcolm to hear what who he gave his point to and why.
Yeah, this was pretty much an even build, but both Alec and Ryan sort of counted each other's points very easily. This is the one that I would give it to, sort of based on this is one that Alec kind of clinched it in the closing for me, because he said, with this line of that he said to Ryan, that his Dark Phoenix took The Last Stand and made it worse. So Alec is going to get my point.
All right, looks like we got Alec there. So we will hear from Sean next time, and we will bring in the competitors again. All right, and so now we're going to move on to question number 2. Question number 2 is a replay. It was previously used in the John Marr versus Richie Goodacre match, in which they chose Troll 2 and Jaws the Revenge, and thus were unavailable for today's match. As you've probably guessed by now what the question is, don't worry, there's still a lot of bad ones to choose from. It is, what is the worst horror film of all time? What a question. All right, so now we're going to go back to these guys, and it looks like I believe Alec is starting with this one this time. So we're going to have him start. His 60 seconds will start when he begins speaking.
So, as an avid horror fan, I understand that there are a lot of really bad horror films. None worse and more infuriating than The Last Shift from 2014. This movie starts out like any normal premise. You know, it's the last shift of this particular precinct. Someone has to stay there. She's a rookie, and crazy hijinks happen. You have possible haunted people, ghosts or whatever, and you have it just slowly just goes downhill. You at one point you even think that there is some possible way that there is a good payoff, and it completely just craps the bed. Left me angry. This film left me angry after I watched it, and that's hard to do for me. So yeah, I'm gonna go ahead and yield. Well, it's over.
Oh man,
Nice try on that one, Alec.
That sounds pretty awful. Let's hear what Ryan chose for this one when he begins speaking. So will his time.
Yeah, so this question can go in a million different directions here, folks. Let's be perfectly honest. There's plenty to choose from in this respective genre. But for this question, I'm going to pull a Hail Mary and toss one out to left field. I went with Friday the 13th. Well, which one, might you ask? Because there's a million of those movies around, just to point that out. Specifically, I'm going with the reboot from 2009, which in this iteration starred Jared Padalecki, Daniel Panabaker, Amanda Rigetti, 3 accomplished television actors and actresses, and they're trying to reboot this franchise for the nth time because there's been like 80,000 of these films, and we figured, hey, we don't have an original idea here. Let's just reboot the franchise, okay? So they tried to do it, and guess what? It landed dead flat. It was dead on arrival. There is nothing new or inventive about this reboot. It is trash. It is awful acting, awful writing, awful execution. And the end where they set it up for a sequel is just dumb. This franchise should have stayed dead.
All right. Wow. All right. Now we're going to go back up to Alec for his 2-minute expansion when he begins speaking.
No offense, Ryan, but you didn't even pick the worst Friday the 13th movie for this film. You could have picked Jason Takes Manhattan, Jason X, Jason Goes to Hell. There are plenty of other ones you could have taken. This one is not up there for me in worst horror films of all time. There are some fun kills. Danielle Panabaker's in it. I enjoy her. I think she's great. It's just this film, The Last Shift takes something that really it really does infuriate me, because this film starts off with so much promise. The sound design in the film is really, really good. Actually, I wish that this film didn't end the way it did, because then I could tell people to go watch it, because there are moments, but there's just the ending of this film is so horrible that it completely ruins the movie for me. I'll never go back and rewatch it again because of this ending, because it completely takes away what you were trying to accomplish with the film. With Friday the 13th, words are hard. They had some fun with it. It wasn't meant to be taken seriously, and at least in my opinion, it wasn't. It's just a fun slasher film. What they're trying to do with Jason, it's what you always see in any Friday the 13th movie. There are plenty of other horrible ones. This film tried to do something unique and completely failed so badly that it makes the film unwatchable after you see this ending. I'll go into the ending later, and I'll go ahead and yield the rest of my time.
All right, so we will skip the clock forward a little bit, and then we'll go down to Ryan for his 2 minutes when he begins speaking.
See, here's the thing, Alec. You mentioned a few previous installments that I could have or should have chosen, right? Well, here's the problem with that. The other installments of the Friday the 13th franchise that may not be considered good or may not be considered commercially successful according to critics or fans, pretty much every installment of the original Friday the 13th franchise specifically have cult followings, including Jason Takes Manhattan, including Jason X. That film has a cult following. Whereas Friday the 13th from 2009, aka the reboot, has no cult following. It has no fanship, no people worshiping at its altar like it does with other films within this franchise. This had a simple task: reboot the franchise, give us something a little bit fresh and new, but keep some of the traditional elements in there, right? So you have to have a bit of a mix. You have to have a balance. And this film does none of that. It has like maybe one or two creative kills, and that's it. The acting is horrendously bad. It is a terrible written script. It is a horribly written dialogue. It is a horribly directed film. And the way they end it with an opening for a potential sequel that we never got, and thankfully so, I might add, because it's a piece of it's trash. You take three accomplished TV actors, actresses in Jared Padalecki, Daniel Panabaker, Amanda Rigetti, and there is nothing really for them to do with this horrible script, this horrible shot film. The guy who plays Jason is just dumb, stupid, and the way that one of the kids gets kidnapped because he's obsessed with her because she reminds her of his sister, whatever. It is so dull and stupid beyond recognition. Whereas your film actually has gotten a lot of praise, but I will dive more into that a little bit later on in this program. But with that being said, at the end of the day, when it comes down to these two films that we are specifically debating here, Friday the 13th, 2009 is, in fact, the worst of this bunch. It is the worst horror film ever for a billion different reasons, not the least of which is its Rotten Tomatoes rating, what people are saying about it online and critics were saying, and that is it for that, and I got more later.
All right. Well, now we're going to run into the open debate because guys can go head to head when anyone begins speaking.
So last shift, the reason why I have it have it as my worst horror film of all time is because of what it starts to build and what you have. It has you. It's like a roller coaster of just like constantly going up, and then at some point it just stops. It just stayed there and it never went down. You never got to have the high of of the excitement, because this film completely wets the bed when it came to its ending, when it came to its premise. It has you this whole time fearing for this demon king, this serial killer or this mass murderer, Charles Manson-esque man. You think that he's going to come back because he went to hell to become a king. And the way that they're talking about it, the way it's being explained and the way it's being built up, you're thinking it's going to be this huge like hell portal thing, and it's completely whiffs it by saying it's like, oh, it's in her mind. Everything that happened, it was in her mind. She wasn't killing weird demons. She was killing people that were there to the fellow workers in the precinct. It completely ruins it. It thinks it's clever. It tries to do a little wink at you, and it completely just wet the bed, ruined this movie of what was a really decent movie until it completely just said, yeah, I'm not going to follow up on that premise. I'm not going to give you what you want. But with Friday the 13th, no, it's not a great movie, and it's not well acted. It's not well written. But what do you expect when you're going to a Friday the 13th movie? That is going to be my biggest argument, because I'm not going into a Friday the 13th movie to see some really good performances and to see a well-written script and a witty dialogue. I'm just there to watch some kills. You got to see some kills. You got to see, the obligatory stuff that you have to see. So this film is just not the worst of all time. No, it's not a good film by any means, but it's definitely not the worst of all time.
Well, here's the thing, though. Your film was a bit of an indie film. There was a young actress by the name of Juliana Harkavy, who's the lead in this film as the police officer, whatever it is. No one knew who she was. This film had little to no expectations going in, whereas Friday the 13th, there was a certain state of expectations because this is coming from a franchise that's really well known. It's known worldwide. Millions and millions of people know exactly what this is. And yes, to a certain degree, you're right. They knew exactly what they were getting when they were going in to see 2009's Friday the 13th. But the trailers made it had the thing where Jared Padalecki's looking for his missing sister, so that's a bit of a new element. Not the most original, but it's a bit new. Also, you had accomplished TV actors and actresses who had a bit of a built-in following going in to see Friday the 13th, 2009, whereas in your film, no one knew who the frack these actors and actresses were. They didn't know who the director was. They had no idea what was going on. Where in your film, Let's look at the numbers here. Friday the 13th, 2009 has a 26% rating on Rotten Tomatoes. Your film, The Last Shift, 2014, has 100%. 100% Rotten Tomato rating that says Last Shift masterfully builds its tension towards an unexpected yet satisfying release that deepens and invigorates everything that has preceded it. And Juliana Harkavy went on to be on Arrow, if I remember correctly, on CW. So she went on to do some certain good things. But your film has 100%, whereas my film has 26%. Let's look at the math. Friday the 13th, trash. Nothing inventive, nothing creative. Leave it open for a sequel we never got. Your film has a RT rating of 100% out of X amount of reviews. People loved your movie, whereas hardly anybody is talking about Friday the 13th, 2009. Hence the reason why we're talking about what exactly is the worst horror film in our respective minds and in our respective opinions. In this case, Friday the 13th, 2009 beats your film by a landslide.
Rotten Tomatoes, you know, it is what it is. There's probably like 2 reviews, and maybe both people liked it. I don't know, because no one saw this film because no one talked about it. Yes, horror film is the easiest movie to be able to blow up, and it didn't do that. It didn't get the praise that it got.
All right. Well, Alec, you'll be able to keep going, because we're going to go on to your 60 seconds when you begin speaking.
In terms of the film, Last Shift is worse, not because of the fact that it didn't have any expectations going into it, but because it actually was succeeding, and then it completely drops the ball. It ruins everything that you were, any kind of horror, any type of feeling that you had towards any of the characters. It completely ruins it. There is no payoff. That's the problem, is that there is no real payoff in the film. It's a wasted. It's the common gimmick of, oh, it was all in her head the entire time. Nothing was actually happening, or so you think. You know, like with the wink at the screen. With Friday the 13th, you get the kills, you get the stuff that you go to see a slasher for. No, they didn't reinvent the wheel when it came to Friday the 13th, and I don't think they were. I didn't have the expectations that you might have had for this film, but in my opinion, it was a fun time in the movie theater that I'll probably never enjoy again, but that's okay.
All right. And then we're going to go down to Ryan for his final 60 seconds when he begins speaking.
In the other installments of the original Friday the 13th franchise, it was becoming stale. Things were becoming silly, gimmicky, including Jason X and Jason Maybe Takes Manhattan and things of that nature. But when the reboot was coming out, the trailers made it seem like they're going back to the roots. They're going to keep it straight up hard, no comedy. They're going to keep it very dramatic, very tension-filled, very suspenseful. And what we got was retreads of other films that have been made so much better than this reboot with Friday the 13th, 2009. You had actors that had a built-in following. That gave us expectations. You had a trailer that promises some good stuff. That was some expectations, and we didn't get it. Your film has 100% rating on Rotten Tomatoes. People are loving this film. People love The Last Shift, whereas Friday the 13th, 2009, 26% rating on Rotten Tomatoes. Nobody cares. Nobody watches it. No one has festivals for it every year. Whereas your film, it was a clean slate. It didn't have any previous iterations or previous installments leading up to it, respectively. Hence the reason your film, has more praise. Whereas in my film, Friday the 13th, 2009, is the worst horror film of all time. Period.
All right. Nice job, guys. We're going to take you out. Bring in those judges. Okay. All right. So we will go to Malcolm first this time. Just give us who got your point and why.
Yeah, this was a little bit tough because I think ultimately this is going to be, I'm going to give my point to Alec, because he managed to knock down Ryan's points, and he also managed to paint a picture of why this movie, which I personally had not even actually heard of before, was the worst one. And just based on what he said about it, it's like, I really don't want to see it myself. But I think Ryan kind of fell in the trap of just hammering down the same points a lot. But yeah, my point's going to Alec here.
All right, great. So now we'll go to Sean to hear who he voted for and why.
I'm not really big on appeals to authority arguments where it's like, well, your film is rated better than mine. So based on the fact that, certain people that wound up that are viewed as being authorities on certain figures basically make my film better than yours. But I will say Ryan, I think, is actually going to get my point on this one, just based on the fact that I think he hit on a lot of really good points about what makes the 2009 film really bad. And yeah, I think I'm going to lean towards Ryan. I'm just trying to keep it short and sweet. I have a lot more than that, but yeah, I'm going to lean
All
towards
right. So it looks like we're tied up. We're going to go to Brian to break that tie. Brian, who'd you vote for and why?
For me, I'll lean towards Alex for this one. He knocked down on the wise pick on how he could pick other or Jason Friday 13th films more. So Alex is getting my pick on this one.
All right. Thank you, judges. I'm going to drop you guys to the back, bring in the competitors, because it looks like Alex is up 2-0. Alec is up 2-0. So now we have to go to the third question to see if Ryan can make a comeback here. All right. So now we're going to go to this question, which is, this one may get kind of heated. We'll see, because the question is, what is the most underrated film of the Star Wars franchise? Okay. So I believe we're going back up to Ryan to begin this one. Get in that timer. All right. So Ryan, your time will begin when you begin speaking.
This is a bit of a complicated question. I'm not going to lie. But once again, I'm swinging for the fences. I'm going to pull a Hail Mary and see what sticks. For me, the most underrated film in the history of the Star Wars franchise, in my opinion, has to be Rogue One, A Star Wars Story. This is a film that no one saw coming. This was completely off the reservation. No one thought this was ever going to be made. No one even had a thought that maybe we wanted to see this film. Why do we need it? Why is it here? I don't understand. What are you trying to do? Because Star Wars has this through line of just making trilogies after trilogy after trilogy after trilogy, right? But then when Disney bought Lucasfilm, they said that we are going to do some new things with Star Wars. We're going to explore new corners of the galaxy. We're going to explore new characters, new storylines, and they did it with a bang with opening of Rogue One, A Star Wars Story, which to me is the most underrated film in the Star Wars franchise. We'll get more into it later.
All right. Now we're going to move to Alec for his opening minute when he begins speaking.
This might end badly for me, but I chose for the most underrated film of the Star Wars franchise, I chose The Last Jedi. I remember, yes, this movie got bashed by everybody, by Star Wars fans alike. But I remember walking out of that film and thinking, it wasn't what I expected, but it really wasn't like it, I didn't come out with a bad feeling. I didn't know about it until I saw all the reviews and was like, oh wow, people really don't like this film. I thought it was one, it's a beautiful film. It's got some great visuals. Still, I rewatched it for this, and man, there were some really great visuals in the film where I'm like, wow, like that was really good. And in my opinion, Rian Johnson's idea of challenging the Star Wars lore and just like kind of challenge and putting different questions out there and not answering it the way people thought, I thought was actually kind of bold, and I enjoyed it for what it was. And I'll yield the rest of my time.
All right. Well, since I'm not judging here, I can say that I 100% agree with Alec. Anyways, we're gonna move down. We're gonna move on to Ryan's
bias in the house
expansion when he begins speaking.
Let's talk about a few things here. The Last Jedi is coming off an incredible, epic, like regrouping and return to Star Wars lore, returning to the Star Wars franchise, giving us Episode 7 is something we never thought we would get, but we got it, and we wanted it for so long, and we finally got it. Whereas Rogue One, let's not forget, this was a very big risk. This is a spin-off movie, something that has never been done in the history of Star Wars up to that point. Yeah, you can say, well, we had Star Wars: The Clone War, but I'm like, dude, come on. Clone Wars was just, that movie was a pilot episode for the series. Get out of here. Rogue One was a huge, monumental risk because we didn't know who these characters were. We didn't know who a lot of these actors and actresses were. We didn't know what we were going to get. And also, you got to take into account there were behind-the-scenes issues during the course of the making of this film, Rogue One: A Star Wars Story. Tony Gilroy came in to do some reshoots, when Gareth Edwards left the production, when it was supposedly done with production. And we don't know how much of reshoots that he did. Did he reshoot a third of the film? Did he reshoot 2/3 of the film? Whatever it was, we don't know. We don't really know. But when you look at what they had to deal with, where Rogue One: A Star Wars Story was a risk going into it, it was a risk with the reshoots, with the behind-the-scenes drama that was going on, and to see the finished product in theaters is an incredible achievement that should be celebrated and appreciated. And it is criminally underrated that Rogue One doesn't get as much love as it does. It needs to get more love. It needs to get appreciation. The Last Jedi, people were jacked up, excited to see that, but we knew we were going to get Episode 8. Did anyone see Rogue One: A Star Wars Story coming? No. No one saw it coming. No one needed it. No one wanted it, but we are glad that we did because Rogue One: A Star Wars Story is criminally underrated, and it is the best prequel in the history of Star Wars cinematically that we are ever going to get. Despite what people think about the prequel trilogy, despite what people may think about some other iterations of the franchise, Rogue One: A Star Wars Story was a risk, and they reaped the rewards indefinitely. Whereas The Last Jedi, there are a million problems with that, which we will discuss momentarily.
All right. And now we're going to move on to Alec for his 2 minutes when he begins speaking.
Sorry. Rogue One was a surprise, and I think it got everybody jacked about Star Wars again. Once again, with Force Awakens did as well. But in my opinion, yes, it was a surprise, but I wouldn't say it's underrated. I think that movie is loved by Star Wars fans alike. There's a pretty general consensus that film is great and is loved by Star Wars fans. The Last Jedi, it gets crapped on all the time. People, they get hung up in the questions that weren't answered, the things that they didn't get, including like Rey's parents. We find out that Rey's parents don't matter, and that kind of challenged what everyone was wanting from the franchise. It might have not went the way that everyone was hoping. The filmmakers were hoping, but they did try. Rian Johnson definitely tried to do something different with Rogue One. With Rogue One, yes, it was a surprise. It was a risk. It was a war film, but that film is generally loved by the fans. This is The Last Jedi is one that I think that we're gonna be fighting about this film for forever. We're destined to do this forever in terms of The Last Jedi because of how underrated it is as a film, because people are looking at it more as like, oh, it's not a good Star Wars film. That's not my Star Wars. It gave you Luke throwing the lightsaber and tropes, things that we learned that we grew to love with Star Wars. They turned it on its heels, and it might not work for everybody. It might not be everyone's cup of tea, but in my opinion, it's not as bad as everyone is making it out to be. Like I said, there are some really good things to see in it. You finally get to see some really good progression with Rey and with Kylo Ren, and that was in the film as well. So we'll get more into that, but yeah.
All right, and you definitely can get more into that when anyone begins speaking. So we're your time for your 4 minutes.
All right, well, let's talk about The Last Jedi for a second here. We knew we were going to get Episode 8. We knew all the characters were coming back. We knew Luke was coming back. We knew all this other stuff was good. But this film had no idea what it was doing. This film was making up the story as it went along. You had things like Luke throwing the lightsaber. You had Luke milking a weird-looking camel dude private parts to get his blue milk. That is gross, disgusting, and despicable for that film. That film, there are so many trashy elements of that film that are dumb, stupid, don't make any lick of sense. That film was making it up as they went along. Whereas in Rogue One: A Star Wars Story, hi Munchkins, Rogue One: A Star Wars Story introduced new characters into the franchise that we had never heard of before. Whereas in Last Jedi, we already knew most of the characters are already going to be in Episode 8, The Last Jedi, respectively. Rogue One introduced new characters we never heard of before, never seen before. We saw more planets, we saw more landscapes, we saw more elements of the rebellion. We saw the very dark and gray areas of a war that was going on between the Rebel Alliance and the Galactic Empire. Whereas in Last Jedi, they're giving us the same cup of tea we got in Empire Strikes Back, the same cup of tea we got from the original trilogy. It's Jedi versus Sith. It's good versus evil. It's lightsaber duel this, lightsaber duel that, few blaster fights through space battles. Whereas in Rogue One, there were no lightsaber battles. There was no Jedi or Sith lords featured in this film, unless you count the last scene in Rogue One with Darth Vader chopping people to bits. Which, by the way, that's another thing we've never seen in Star Wars. Is Darth Vader
great
going
scene.
completely ape crap and slicing people up like crazy. So in that sense, Rogue One added new layers. It showed us more depth to the rebellion, more gray areas of what some of the dirty, underhanded things that the rebellion had to do to get the information that they needed to succeed in the war against the Empire. Whereas The Last Jedi, it's the same thing we saw in the original trilogy, whereas Rogue One is fresh, different, and it was a risk.
Yes, it does the exact same things that the trilogy did. But that's why I will say that it is underrated, is the most underrated. With Rogue One, everything you said is true. Everything you said about the film is 100% true, but everyone accepts that and knows that all that is true and that it's a great film. It's not an underrated film. The Last Jedi is an underrated film, and it's because of the fact that it didn't give people what they wanted. It completely changed. It completely changed where I think JJ was going, which is why they brought him back to direct the Rise of Skywalker. But with Rogue One. After Rogue One was over, I think people were more excited for The Last Jedi because of Rogue One, because of how good Rogue One was, and what he did and what was done with that film. With The Last Jedi, people were coming off of how great that film was. So when they didn't get what they wanted, they were upset. They were mad. They looked at it with a different lens, and that's the problem I think with Last Jedi is it does too much differently and change things from what people were expecting too much, because then people would just turn a blind eye. It's like, nope, that's a bad film. I didn't get what I wanted. But when you actually watch the film, Rian Johnson does a great job. There's one bad scene, and that I'll give. I think Kinto Bite. That's the one scene that I don't enjoy. But there's also the one scene in Force Awakens that I don't enjoy, which is with y'all know the scene that I'm talking about. But that happens in Star Wars. But with Rogue One, it's a great film. It introduced you guys like Andor, like Cassian Andor, Jyn Erso. You have Baze and all that. So it created those characters, and now we're even getting the Andor film. Like we're getting the Andor series, so people can see that because of how good that film was. That film is not underrated. It is seen as a great, as a good film and a great installment in the Star Wars franchise.
When someone puts together a spin-off and a spin-off series of a classic franchise, you're thinking, well, what is this? What is going on with spin-offs? Why do we need this? Why can't we just continue with episode 8 and 9 and just be done with it? No. Lucasfilm said, we're going to take new chances, we're going to take new risks, we're going to put in new layers, and they did it successfully, more so with Rogue One than they did with Last Jedi.
All right, so now we're going to move. I think Ryan can keep talking if he wants, because the time. His 60 seconds will begin when he begins speaking.
Question on the table. What is the most underrated film in the Star Wars franchise? In the entire Star Wars franchise? To me, it's got to be Rogue One. Why? Did things we never saw coming. Showed us different sides. It showed us different layers. Introduced new characters that we had never seen, never heard of before. And they did a 7 Samurai type thing where they all die in the end to sacrifice themselves to get those plans, to help the rebellion, to help save the galaxy and restore freedom to the galaxy. Whereas The Last Jedi, in the words of Kylo Ren, more. Like, it's just more of the same, man. It's more of the same. Jedi versus Sith, do this, do that, regroup if we get hurt, like they did in Empire Strikes Back. Rogue One, totally different landscape. New planets, new landscapes, new things, new characters, new layers to the story, new layers to Star Wars that we didn't even know we wanted, but we got. Some of the best action sequences, some of the best special effects ever in the history of Star Wars in Rogue One is so criminally underrated for so many reasons, and that's why it is the most underrated film, more so than Last Jedi.
All right, great. Now we're going to go to Alec for his final minute when he begins speaking.
The Last Jedi is the most underrated film in the Star Wars franchise because of how good Rogue One is. Rogue One is not underrated. It is perfectly rated. It is rated exactly where it should be, right around the upper tier because of what it did with the characters and all that. What The Last Jedi did was a Star Wars film. It made some fans mad. Yes, there are some things changed, but it follows the general plot line, the general line of events as the other films do. You know we're getting episode 9, so this one doesn't really matter. But at the same time, when you watch the film, it does some interesting things. That there are some beautiful visuals. You have the visual with why am I blanking on her name? Laura Dern's character doing what she does with the to take out the entire fleet. You have the throne room scene with Rey and Kylo. Like, you got some great scenes that we'll go back and remember. Yes, introduce some really good powers. You know, you got a Star Wars film that isn't the worst in the franchise. It's not the best, but it's not the worst either.
All right, great job, guys. I'm gonna drop you out. Bring in the judges. Nope. Bring in the judges, and we're gonna start here. Oh wait, look at that. All right, pause here. What the heck did I do? Okay. Oh, that's why. All right, never mind. Sean, are you there?
Yeah, I'm here.
All right, cool. All right, so we're going to bring in the judges now, and here we go. We're going to begin with Sean. We're going to hear his opinion on who he voted for and why.
I've been leaning towards Ryan's arguments for the past 2 rounds, but Alec really swayed me on what makes The Last Jedi an actual underrated film, as opposed to Ryan arguing as to what makes it just a good film in general. That's really where I felt like the argument sort of landed and all of this. And yeah, I'd have to give my point to Alec.
All right, so now we're going to go to Brian to hear who he voted for and why.
Yeah, my pick goes to Alec. He knocked out Ryan's pick, saying that Rogue was more beloved, not underrated, and Alec talked more about specific scenes in episode 8 with Ryan didn't really talk much about it, so Alec is my pick.
All right, well, we'll go ahead and bring these judges out because, and your winner, we have Alec, Sinister, Miller. Sorry, I got that name wrong. You have a record of 2-1 now. How does this feel?
It feels good especially because in the trivia leagues, my record's not looking great. So to be able to see a positive, an above 500 record feels good. No, this was a great match. Ryan's a great opponent. I think these are some of the questions I'm like pretty passionate about. So I was able to bring that forward. So glad that it helped me in this match, and I'm looking forward to who I have next.
That's awesome. Yeah, which one was the really passion-filled one?
It was Last Shift. It was the
Nice.
horror one. When I say I got angry with that when I watched that film afterwards, like I was so angry after I watched that film because it really did like have this buildup of what you're gonna get. Now I was even like, man, I think we're gonna get. I was telling my girls like, I think we're gonna get like a crazy demon scene, and then it ruined it with that horror.
Yeah, it's really hard sometimes when you throw out one that maybe not a lot of people have seen, and then you gotta wonder if you're able to actually paint this picture.
Yeah.
About, how it made you angry. Like, can you make the judges angry enough to be like, well, Alex, right? That's the worst one. But yeah,
I was hoping I could do that.
Oh yeah. So Alec is moving on to round 2 of the summer tournament. He'll be taking on Jake Tato Reese, who bleeds potato blood. I think he's been saying a lot. He's also fresh off a match against Jacob Barber. I don't really know how that went, but yeah. How are your thoughts on facing Jake?
I don't think I've played Jake in anything, so it's going to be interesting to see how our styles match up in debate. So yeah, I'm excited. It's gonna be cool.
Yeah, well, he's a pretty hilarious guy. So I guess prepare for that. Well, yep. So I'll go ahead and congratulations again on the win. That was
Thank you.
pretty amazing. I'm gonna go ahead and drop you out, and you can go ahead and feed your kids. And we'll see you next time. All right, now we're gonna bring in the second place finisher, Ryan Permison. How's it going, Ryan?
That's a
How are you
nice way to
feeling?
put it. How's it going? I lost. How do you think I feel? Captain Obvious. No, listen. It is what it is. It was fun. It was fun. It was good to see Alec again. Clearly, he's got his hands full with new fur babies jumping around, barking like crazy. Almost barking a little bit more so than what was the character's name? Zool in Ghostbusters. Growling and stuff. And then he's got the Munchkin roaming through his camera, thinking, "When's dinner coming, Daddy?" So he had his hands full in this match in more ways than one, but he came, he saw, and he won. So congratulations to you, Alec. It was a knockout, 3-0. Good for you. Good questions. Listen, I knew the Star Wars one was a Hail Mary. But I wanted to fight for that film because, to a certain degree, I still feel like it's a bit underrated. Maybe not as underrated as I originally thought, but it's still somewhat underrated. But you know what? This was fine. This was fun. It was good to see everybody. Good to meet some of the new judges and new panelists we have here on this channel. And Sean is like a brother to me. So it's good to see you again, Sean. Thanks for not voting for me. No, I'm kidding. He voted for me a few times. So Sean, you and I are still good friends. And the funny thing is, I didn't even know that the host of this. Where am I pointing? This way. Yeah. Chad and I live in the same state. I did not know that. The fun facts that we learn on this very program, folks. You never know what you're going to get. It's like a box of chocolates. But this was fun. Thanks for having me.
Sometimes it's a small world. Hey, I've been there. I've prepped really hard for a match one time against Joe, and I lost big time. I also got the knockout, and I thought I did really great, and I thought you did really great. I don't think your performance today at all was like knockout worthy. I just think Alec did a really good job as well, and the judges went another way. Sometimes that happens, even if you fought like to the best of your ability. So definitely look forward if you want to keep coming back. Definitely look forward to seeing you keep playing. And if you do want to keep playing, is there anybody in particular you would like to play next?
I can't think of anyone offhand, so I'll just let the powers that be decide my fate. Since I'm 1-3, I'm not going to be getting any matches for a good long while, but that's fine with me, man. Listen, I'm a busy dude. I got a lot of stuff going on anyway as it is, as well as probably some of the judges here as well. So I'm good to take a long vacation. Maybe I'll go down south to Del Boca Vista, hang out with the retirees, maybe hang out with Cosmo Kramer, who's running for office. Maybe vote for him or something like that to be the condo president again. Who knows? Maybe I could play some golf with who's the other one? Bob Sacamano, and Art Vandelay. But are you sensing a pattern here with my references? I think you are. But this was fun. It's good to see everybody. I wish all the competitors well. And Alec, good luck on your next match. You're going to need it because this league is getting more and more competitive, and the questions are getting harder, and harder. So you brought your A game today, but can you bring your A+ game there, Alec boy? We'll find out on your next episode. But in the meantime, Chad, as it were, thanks for having me. I appreciate you guys. My hat's off to everybody who put together the questions. Some good ones, really deep cuts too, deep cuts. But thanks, and in case I do not see you, good afternoon, good evening, and good night. Mana.
All right. Well, thank you, Ryan. This was a great match. Great having you. See you later. All right. With all that being said and done, we are going to close out this match. It was a great one. I really enjoyed listening to this. Not judging, but listening and hosting. Hopefully, I didn't do too terrible of a job. But yeah, if you like this one, please do give us a favor, like and subscribe. And continue watching and supporting a lot of these videos, debates. A lot of people put in a lot of really great work here. Behind the scenes and also just prepping for these matches, and it's a really fun time. So thank you for watching, and we'll catch you next time.